Yes, welcome to the No State Project for April 10th, 2019, live edition of the No State Project. It's episode 106. Glad to be with you here on the big show. Glad I was able to make it. I tested everything out before doing the broadcast, and just when I go to do the broadcast, all my tech problems were back. So I had deleted drivers. Everything was working just fine. Had everything set up 2 hours in advance. I still can't. What can I do? What can I do here? Well, it's just a regular part of the show. But I'm hoping that I can get a very good recording on the other computer, and I can have good video and graphics that I can put up tomorrow. So we'll see. I do want to thank everyone for their continued support of the show. Chris in California. Wow. EL. And Nelson, Don, Mark, Dan, of course, Dan and Bill up in New Hampshire. Really do appreciate it. If you'd like to help support the No State Project, it's in the show note. And you can also go, it's markstevens.sells.com. It's markstevens.sells.com. And also just my website, markstevens.net will get you there also. But I had to restart everything. So let me give the caller numbers out. It's 218-632-9399. 218-632-9399 is the number to get you into the queue. The passcode is 2020 with the pound sign. Not a toll-free number, but hey, most people, who's paying that anyway? Most people with a cell phone, not, Anyway, a lot of stuff to get to. You can also reach me on Skype at Frank Rizzo 3. And we are talking about doing the role-playing on a different day. And it just doesn't seem to be working out where we have a lot of participants on the Thursday afternoon. Maybe that's just too early or too late, depending on people's schedule. So we're going to try to do that after Saturday shows. So you're still welcome to get on Frank Rizzo on the Skype chat and get into the Discord, onto the server there and do it. But as far as, me doing it, we're going to try, we'd like to have, people who are actually participating and need to participate because they're prepping for court. So that's why we're going to try switching the day out. So we'll see. Somebody had asked a question. I don't know if they're on the line or not. I know we've already got the lines filling up. So somebody had asked me to talk about the questions that we would ask, how you confront a tax agent. I think in this one in particular, it is a property tax agent. And, I've discussed this before. I'm happy to discuss it again. Basically, what you're trying to do is you're trying to whether it's property tax, any code violation, anytime when they said that their code obligates you to do XYZ, the XYZ is not, it's not, too important to focus on that. What's important to focus on is their claim that their code creates an obligation on you or me to do XYZ or not to do XYZ. That's where the big issue is. So what you want to do with any of these things, anytime somebody's making a claim, make sure you got their claim right. Because for me, at least, it just seems to be that people learn some logic and then think that everything is a logical fallacy when it's not. And one of the big ones, especially with some self-proclaimed anarchists, that if anybody makes an argument or a counter argument to something that they're putting out, they immediately start screaming, straw man, straw man, straw man, straw man. That's not what I said, straw man. Now, sometimes that's legitimate. A lot of times, at least when you're looking on Facebook, it's not. Or Reddit, where they're just throwing that out. It's like people just think that someone lying in and of itself is gaslighting, when that's not what gaslighting is. Gaslighting certainly can involve lies, but just because somebody's lying doesn't mean they're necessarily gaslighting you. And that's something that seemed to have picked up some steam online. And so everyone is straw man, gaslighting. Well, get it right, okay? So get the argument correct. So you don't have to use the exact same words. And if somebody isn't being clear in their argument, then I think it's fine to ask them if this is what they mean. Put it in your own words. You're saying that, but as long as you're making the same, the same basic argument. So we want to know what their argument is. So I like here, just get right to the heart of the matter. You guys believe that just because I'm physically in Arizona, that your laws apply, and that gives you jurisdiction over me and creates obligations to do X, Y, Z. So now it's on the table. Now you just have to ask questions on really, why do they believe that that's true? Why do they believe to it's such a fervor that they're willing to hurt you in some way in order to get you to comply with what this alleged obligation? And but let me get to the calls. Wow. So this is what I like. I mean, we start the show off and I got a full boat of calls here. That's nice. So I'll put the cans on now. All right. I think this might be my property tax guy. We got area code 512. Is that? I think it's Austin. 512. You're live on the No State Project. What's your name? Where you calling from?
I'm calling from Austin. My name is Frank.
Frank from Austin. How was Austin today, Frank?
Hot.
Okay. It was 95 degrees yesterday here in Phoenix, and I was lucky enough to have to change out a starter. So, but hey, the last time I did, it was 110.
I used to live in Phoenix for 2 years. I spent.
Oh, well,
that's too long. 2 years is too long there.
Too long. I've been here for 24. I love it out here.
I love it too, but you gotta put up with the heat.
Yeah, but come on now, Frank, give me, come on. You got 10 times the humidity out there in Austin.
Well, I came from Buffalo.
Oh, really? What part of Buffalo?
It's a big swing. It's a big swing.
Look at this. We got another connection here. I was born in Cheektowaga.
No kidding, Mom. You probably knew me then. You're probably one of my neighborhood rats.
My parents mercifully moved me from Buffalo to Long Island when I was about 2. So I grew up
you didn't grow up in my hood there.
No, I was not there for the deadly 78 snowstorm. Were you there for the 78 storm?
Yeah. Yes, I was there for all of the blizzards, and I got the hell out and went to Phoenix.
Well, there you go. That's a good choice. I mean, people died in that 78 blizzard. That was record breaking. So, now, Frank, are you the one who had contacted me today regarding property taxes?
I'm an agent for that person.
Okay.
So
an agent for the guy?
Yeah. It's an Austin property, right?
Okay.
So, we're dealing with the original Constitution versus what was imposed by the North after Texas and the northern states took over, and they kind of tweaked our Constitution without any authority. So I figure instead of having oral arguments with these people, because you can't win, they're like prize fighters. Bar grieve them all. I mean, for God's sakes, do something. You get if a lawyer gets a bar grievance in his first year of practice, he gets his insurance pulled. Okay, he can't tell you about that. It makes him really mad.
Well, I didn't know about that, but why are you saying that they're prize fighters? It's my experience that these guys are, especially in this arena, what we're talking about code violations, being able to prove personal and subject matter jurisdiction, to prove that their codes, their claim that they've got no, unless they're in, no, I don't think that's an apt comparison.
What I'm saying is they're in their own home field. They have all the advantages of all the corruption.
Yeah.
And they're going to be there tomorrow. So without you, with or without you, they're going to be in that court. So
yeah, well, it's
they have a little old boys system there, and you have to bar grieve them. You have to press criminal charges and get to the grand juries. You have to use politics. Politics is the only thing that people don't understand, is the way that it works. It doesn't work by law and facts. It works by politics. So you never win a case with the law and the facts on your side.
Well, we have done that. We have been able to do that. I've got plenty of that on my website, and we have even had jury. We've had jury acquittals.
We get lucky, but we're not going to change the system.
That's
unless we use politics.
Oh, well, yeah, I have to, unfortunately, I have to agree there. And I've said that, and I've taken some heat for that, which which is fine. To ultimately change the policy, history has shown, and we can see that trying to build the agora and build an alternative is not working out so well. And if we look at even things that I participated in, where you do these conferences and whatnot, and people go to speak and think people sell things, nothing actually comes of that, which is why I really like stuff like Jackalope so much, because it's just a social thing. It's not like anyone's saying by doing this, we're helping to actually make the world more free. But because in the end of the day, nothing actually changes. People don't challenge them publicly. Most people, just don't do that. That's my experience, at least on the show. So that's why I've talked about having someone from the Free State Project, a participant who's in the assembly there in New Hampshire, and actually do something with them to get them, the policy changed, because otherwise nothing's going to, we're just going to keep getting more of what we have.
Yes, and we have to use grand juries. We can get to the grand juries without the DA, especially if we can get some charges on him too.
That I got to disagree with you on. I've not seen any actual proof of that, and people have.
Well, they always have a mailbox. And you can mail an insured, registered, return receipt requested envelope insured for $250, and you want the signature of the foreman of the grand jury, okay, to sign the release on the yellow slip. If you don't get the yellow slip, you get $250. Now, after 3 or 4 of these letters that you collect your $250, you're going to bring the antenna of the Postmaster General to the office of the district attorney, and he's going to be charged with tampering with the federal mail. Now, if you can get the politics of the federal fighting the state, and they have to react, because now you have a casino. You're making $250 each time you don't get your mail gets interrupted.
How many times have you done this?
This is politics.
Yeah. How many times have you done this personally?
No, this has been done widely in Austin. There's a radio show called Rule of Law Radio with Randall Kelton, and he figured out that our forefathers really put a political lever in our hands, and they figured out how to use it in real life, because they don't respond to paper because they're just criminals. Okay.
Yes, but have you seen any actual proof of somebody going to the post office because they sent it certified mail, they didn't get a signature card back, and they got $250?
You got to insure your packages, because they can be interrupted. If you don't get your thing back, it denies you in your right to access to the court and the record.
Okay, but how can
you tell me that denying me an access to the full and free exercise of a right and enjoyment of a right is a good thing? And where do you get the authority to say that I don't have the right to do these things?
Well, I'm just asking you for proof that this is actually happening. Why wouldn't
you do
gotta
it
let me
and
finish.
then tell me what happens? Do it and tell me what happens.
Well, what happens when the post office asks you why you insured it for $250? What was in there?
Because your life requires them to move the case forward. It's costing you thousands of dollars a day. You have to get this case moved forward on the record. You have to have access to the court, and you have to have evidence of all these things being done.
Yeah, but the thing is, the grand jury,
$250 every time. It's costing you $250 in your time, and the post office graciously offers insurance on all their postage. Like that.
Well, that's true.
So that's what
That's true,
So
but
if
the
you want
idea,
to,
but Frank, hold on a second. But the idea that lay people like you and I have access to the grand jury without going through the prosecution, I don't think you're going to get anybody, even at the post office, to agree that you have a right to petition the grand jury directly.
well, you got to have a law that says I don't have the right.
No, you
It's
have
not this
to.
this kind of this kind of thing is how law works. If it's not expressly, if the law doesn't expressly deny you an act, then it's permitted. So now, if we're not expressly denied from going after the grand jury, which there is no law that says a citizen can't, a credible citizen, actually what the law says, you can't be a felon, but you can have access to the grand jury, especially if you have a prosecutor that's 100% corrupt. If you have a 100% corrupt prosecutor, okay, then you have to bring that to the grand jury, and he would shield any motion towards the grand jury if he had full control by law.
No, because the flaw in that is the fact that somebody has remedy by going to the DOJ at the federal level, and they have, like, for example, here in I know, I get the joke, I get it, but what I'm saying is there's a legal remedy that you could seek, at the federal level instead. But I believe that they do have regulations that only a state attorney can bring a complaint to a grand jury. So the idea that just because, so I don't think you're accurate there. And I've heard this about the rule of law radio many times.
I don't suggest that you tell me without footnotes that there's a law that says the fifth estate, or the fourth estate, which is the grand jury, is us. We are the people. Why wouldn't we have access to the people?
Well, I understand
and you tell me
that.
where it lines up in law where the people can't access the people.
I get that. What they're saying, because their position is that you've heard a million times, is that the prosecutor is the people's representative, and they're the ones that are charged.
No, he's not. If he is a corrupt criminal molesting little girls in the back room, and we can't get to the grand jury because he's blocking us, how do we get to the grand jury and he's not allowed in there? We have to have a mailbox to each grand jury, which they always do.
I just would like to see the proof of it. I would like to see somebody who's actually gone through and done it.
A prosecutor would not take advantage of the fact that he is a dictator and be fully corrupt in a week, but if he had that right.
But how many but even like if you're talking about something like Austin has, there's not just, you have an elected county attorney, but there's a whole staff of people there. You also have the police department. If you had credible evidence let me finish. I got to put you on mute for a second. If you actually if you have a situation like this where you have a prosecutor who is been, you have credible, solid evidence that he is molesting children, your first avenue would be to the police, or if you catch him in the act, to kill him, and then set the corpse on fire. But there's access to the police, and there are also other prosecutors.
Police have no access to the grand jury. The police the grand jury, but they're using the criminal himself.
However, the police could still, if there's evidence, go to a judge and get an arrest warrant against them, and then the matter can be brought to the grand jury.
They'd have to get an indictment.
They don't need an indictment before arresting somebody. They could also file a criminal complaint, a felony complaint.
Try to arrest. When have you ever heard of a prosecutor being arrested?
We're talking about the process. We're talking about the process here, okay? How it actually would work, because you're trying to make the case for the process of going directly to the grand jury. And I'm saying that there's a process.
Why wouldn't you have access to the grand jury?
It is a corrupt system.
Law, which I found none, and none of my staff has ever found one.
Staff?
That says that a credible citizen has no access to the grand jury directly. Tell me. You tell me what law
I would have to.
I'll call you back.
Okay, I will have to. I've written down the notes, and I will have to look this up.
It's not a statute. It's not a statute. It's not an act. It has to be a bill read on the floor of the legislator for 3 days, or you also want the emergency clause if they have any, and you want the subject matter line, and you want the signature line. That's what you want. You can get a certified copy from the Secretary of State. Just write them and tell them you want a certified copy of the subject matter line and the bill, and you don't want the whole bill. You just want a few different pages of it that I mentioned. Now, if you do that and you bring that and you are blocked from entering evidence into the record, which they can do because it's administrative. It's under martial law, by the way.
Okay.
They can pull that out of the hat. Now, they usually don't pull it out of the hat unless they are up against the wall. This document will certainly put them up against the wall, because now if they consider this law in their case and the intent and subject matter which is a one subject matter rule that a lot of states use, which is Texas one of them, you have to go through the hoops. And they can't jump through the hoops because their hands are tied. So they automatically start throwing arrows and everything at you.
Okay, but
you have to understand how to object and how to object on the record in writing, because they're going to obscure the record. You got to remember, they're always corrupt.
I get that, but Frank, I have a full boat of calls and not enough show. Is there any
talking to you?
Wait, but is there any proof? Is there any proof? Because you're not the first one to call about this. Is there any proof of anybody in Texas going directly to the grand jury? Yes. Yes, there is.
I'll give you his phone number. It's 512-646-1984.
You don't need to give somebody.
And that's all I got to say. You want to call that number on Thursdays and Fridays. Thank you so much.
Okay, appreciate the call. That's not exactly what I was asking for. I was asking for actual proof that somebody has gone to the grand jury directly around the county attorney and was actually able to present their evidence to the grand jury, and they either indict or choose not to indict. No one has ever showed me any proof whatsoever that they have an indictment or the rejection of an indictment when they went directly to the grand jury as a private, man or woman. I've heard about this for years, and I just have not seen the actual proof. Show me a case number where this is an indictment in Austin or San Antonio when it wasn't done by the county attorney or the state attorney. I would imagine that if somebody may be able to get away with the $250 the one time, but after it starts to happen a few times, the postal inspector is going to want to know just what the hell you're insuring here, because they may be looking at you for insurance fraud. Because you have to show that you are losing $250 or more. You have to actually show that value if you're going to get an insurance claim. You can't just say $1 million if this letter doesn't get there and then there's no return receipt. And not having a return receipt doesn't mean it wasn't delivered. I would be extreme. I would use extreme caution. If you are going to insure something, you damn well better be able to prove the value, the $250, beyond a reasonable doubt. And using legal theories that are not proven could get you locked up for a few years for insurance fraud, for defrauding the United States government through the Postal Service. I would not recommend doing this. Now, I've had it where we insured it because, let's say, for example, the IRS was trying to take $10,000, and if we missed the deadline, if it wasn't accepted, somebody was going to lose a large chunk of money. Somebody would lose a large chunk of money. So when there's $10,000 and you can document the IRS is trying to steal $10,000 from me, if I do not have this timely mailed, I could lose my legal rights and they will wipe me out. So there, if it's not delivered and the IRS is trying to wipe you out, now you've got it insured. They didn't deliver it timely. Now they're on the hook. But you can document the $10,000 loss. Trying to document a $250 loss on a unproven legal theory is kind of reckless, in my opinion. That I don't see that as very good. So we're going to go to another caller tonight. Okay. Looks like we have a Skype caller. We got a few Skype callers. Just shout out who whoever it is, and what's your name? Where are you calling from?
Hey, Mark, James here in Alaska.
Hey, James, how's it going, tough guy?
Hey, not so bad. Had a meeting, an adjustment meeting an informal adjustment meeting with the borough last week on the 29th, and asked them what evidence they had to establish those codes that they're charging me under. Reply, of course, they wrote back and said, at your request, an informal meeting was held regarding the taxation of your property because you do not believe the borough taxes are applicable to your land. Then, as justification, they go on and state a whole bunch of Alaska statutes and Kenai Peninsula Borough statutes, and say that, oh yeah, we do have the right to do this. Now, I've got till May 4th to take this to the Superior Court to make an appeal of the final decision by the administration.
Oh,
have you got anything that you use to file a case like that?
I would just use a regular complaint template that I have and lay out the facts and what your argument is, and that based on these facts, they are not able to make their claim, and it should be abated. Keep it short and sweet. I mean, this is why we do we follow up with them. We ask them these questions so that we can use that against them. So the facts that you have is that you repeatedly question them regarding their argument, and they weren't able to present any evidence. They just kept on restating the argument. And those facts.
Every time I said, well. Oh, sorry.
I was just going to say those facts taken as true in the light most favorable to you do show very clearly that they weren't able to make their case. And if they can't make their case, due process requires it to be abated, which they should have done, which I would then add bad faith into that because they were knowingly proceeding without the evidence.
Yeah, they always said, I always was telling them, it's not that I don't think you have the right to tax my property. I'm saying you haven't provided any evidence to back up that claimed right.
There you go.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, where
I got it all. Oh, sorry.
You got it all. You record. Did you speak to them? And then it's also an email.
Yeah, they sent me a hard copy letter with the decision on it. But yeah, we both recorded it. They had their recorder and I had mine. Theirs was on the table. Mine was in my pocket. So,
well, hey, there you go. Then that's the proof. So when you have statements, when you have questions to them regarding the evidence to support their claim, and they can't give you any actual evidence, that speaks for itself. And then knowing that they didn't, because come on, I mean, if they don't understand whether they've given facts or not, there's a difference. Everyone should understand the difference between statements of fact, and fact and evidence, as opposed to legal arguments, just legal interpretation, which is all they're giving you. They're just restating their claim. So I think those facts speak for themselves. They knew they didn't have the evidence. They failed to present the evidence. They continue to go forward with the assessment anyway, which shows not only bad faith, that they should have, if they were acting in good faith, would have abated the assessment without having it to escalate and having to necessitate you having to file in court against them.
Right, and I don't know how much it's going to cost to file that, but and I even after at the end of the thing, well, now if you're going to cite all these codes that you're going to probably cite, I would hope that you would establish in your response the evidence or factual evidence you use to guarantee or to determine that those codes applied to me, but she didn't.
There's your bad. They can't, and there's their bad faith. I mean, what are they gonna say? I mean, honestly, like these other prosecutors have said to me, they just do. They're not going to put that in writing. Not that they're going to be held accountable for it, but
yeah. Well, she said, she says, oh, well, haven't you applied for an exemption? so much off there every year if you apply for the extension and or the reduction in tax, I think. But I says, well, yeah, if somebody was robbing you at gunpoint, they said they'd take a little bit less of it if you sign this piece of paper. Would you sign that piece of paper? They didn't find that too awful amusing, but so all right. Well, and that is that on yourselves?
No, you get with me off air. I'll help you with that.
You a man. Sweet, Mark. Well, I'll let you get on to the next one.
I appreciate the call, my friend.
All right, you too.
All right, we get wow, we got a lot of calls. All right, we'll do our best to get everybody in over here today. But we've got Chris in Maryland. I hope you got some good news for me.
Hey, Mark, how's it going?
It's going all right there today. You got good news?
No, the last case was my buddy. He ended up getting a lawyer, and they dismissed everything.
Oh,
funny how
nice.
that works, huh?
No,
so you pay $1,000 for a lawyer, and all of a sudden, magically, everything disappears.
Well, what did the lawyer do?
So I mean,
did the
lawyer? Basically, from what I heard from him, the lawyer just went up and said, all this is bogus, right? And they dismissed everything. Driving without a license, failure to control vehicle speed. Everything magically disappeared. He got nervous as heck, and he didn't want to call you up because he didn't trust what I was saying.
Okay.
He's an older guy, so I guess, the motions you do all your life. And he just got stuck in that mindset.
Hey,
Plus,
that's understandable.
Down on him, so.
Hey, I wouldn't. Hey, it cost $1,000. I'm surprised it was only $1,000. But hey, I got to tell you, good job, good on, good. Hey, good for him. That's fine. Hey, $1,000. It's very rare that he would actually pay $1,000 to a lawyer for a criminal charge like that. Maybe he only asked so much because it was a minor thing, and he had a pretty good reputation in there. But then again, somebody with a really good reputation is not going to charge $1,000. He's going to charge you $1,000 for an initial consult. If he's got a reputation. So, hey, well, good. Hey, that's good news. I'm glad to hear that.
And the other thing was, I was talking to you a little bit about tax assessor. I decided to appeal what they had to say. Basically, they gave me a piece of paper saying, we looked at your house, and over the next 3 years, you're going to owe us more money, so we're going to charge you more. So I sent in an appeal, and I go not tomorrow, but next Thursday.
So they retaliated against you.
Well, he called me up today saying my appointment was today, but they only sent me a letter saying that, we've got your letter for appeal, and we'll set up a meeting, and we'll let you know when that is. Well, he calls me up today, says your meeting's right now. I'm like, it doesn't work that way, dude.
Wow, what a prick!
So
and
I had to get it rescheduled.
Well, I'm glad you were able to. It sounds like they're retaliating. So I would, in addition to what I would normally ask regarding their legal claims, I would also get into the facts as to why they believe, why they believe an increase in value is justified. Do you think I built a pool here? Or, did I add an extension? What would you, because then you can compare it to other houses in the area. Are they doing that, in similar houses in the area? Because from what I know, and I don't have that much context, it smacks of retaliation.
Right.
You challenged us.
Well,
there you go.
Yeah. That's kind of what I thought. The guy was nice about it, luckily. So, I was nice back, of course, because I have nothing against him, but I guess somebody in his office, thinks it's okay to mail the letter out saying you have a meeting a week ago.
Nice. And just for everyone who's new, who doesn't know, the bare minimum of due process is notice an opportunity to defend. So if they don't mail it out and you can prove that and they go ahead anyway, then you would think that such a simple, straightforward due process violation would cause it to get reversed. So you were calling, sorry, so you're the one who had emailed me. It wasn't Frank in Austin.
Right.
The-
Yeah, I was emailing you because basically all I'm expecting them to just go down and say, well, here's this piece of paper. This shows what you know. What's the problem?
Well, and you ask him. I started the show off this way. I said, I think I have an issue that with your legal claims against me, and you guys get their agreement. You guys do operate under the presumption that if I or the property is physically in Maryland, your laws apply and give you jurisdiction to assess and collect a tax against me, and it creates an obligation on me, right? And they'll say yes. Now you just have to go and your job is to ask questions, leading questions, to understand why they think that that's true. Do they have any facts to actually support that claim? I don't believe, I think, they don't. It's, you need to be able to bring that out. And so you're asking leading questions. Don't make statements. You want to ask leading questions where the information is in the question. Okay. That's why you put it to them that way. And you can maybe ask them, if you don't have proof to support this claim, wouldn't it be consistent with due process and fairness to abate the assessment? Yeah, but we do have evidence. Well, just answer the question. If, just as a part of, you just want to understand the process. If the situation presented itself where you could not support your legal claim, wouldn't it be fair to abate? Yeah, okay, but we do have evidence here. Fantastic. I just want you to disclose what that is. What facts, if any, what facts do you rely on that prove your claim that just because I'm physically in Maryland, your laws apply and create obligations or give you jurisdiction? And the tough part is dealing with the crap that they're going to spew, because they're not going to be able to answer it directly. They'll say, well, the Constitution in the section such and such of the Constitution allows counties to assess and collect a tax. So how would you respond to that?
I basically say, well, you didn't answer my question because you're assuming that the law applies to me. What facts do you have to show that that law does apply to me and put me under obligations?
It's pretty good. What you could do is ask a better leading question. It says, excuse me, aren't you just assuming that your claim is true? Aren't you just assuming the Constitution applies to then go and cite it? Well, usually what they'll do is they'll mention the code. And then you say, well, oh, so is it your position that the code is evidence proving the Constitution applies? Isn't that backwards? And then they'll oh yeah, you're right. 98% of the time they always reverse it and say, no, you're right. The Constitution is evidence of the code. Great. What facts do you have to prove that the Constitution applies just because I'm physically in Maryland? And that's what you want to use against them. Their answers, write them down. Right. You're not, sir, that doesn't answer the question, does it? Exactly how does that prove the Constitution? So you can ask them that how question or why. But you also want to focus on bringing out that it might be retaliation by asking the questions I mentioned earlier. Okay. But you will not be able to get them. They won't be able to go further on that. You're going to be just getting them back on point until they just throw their hands up and say, we've already answered your question. We're not dealing with this anymore. We're moving on. And you could just make your objection and say, no, you haven't answered the question. But that might be something you have to do like James and appeal.
Right. That would be a violation of due process, basically, because now they're making a claim against me without any evidence to prove what they're saying is true.
Right.
Or even showing it to me.
Right. Fairness, due process dictates that they don't make arbitrary legal claims against you. And they're doing that, and they're going to be proceeding against you knowing they don't have such evidence. A lot of times with these property tax people, they'll admit that they don't have the evidence, that they're not qualified. And a big thing that we've experienced in this last year or so is that not only in California, but here in Arizona, they say they don't want to answer questions without counsel. So you might get something similar to that, where you back them up into a corner and they know it looks bad, and they'll say, well, I'm not answering any more of your questions without counsel. So, all right, well, why don't we put this on hold until you can get your lawyers here?
Right. Yeah, we'll have to put a stay on the assessment until your lawyers get here and I can talk to them.
Right. Well, the thing is, you don't necessarily want to engage the lawyers in what the evidence is, because what I tell them is, I'm interested in what led you to believe that this was true. If your lawyer is going to be feeding you answers, I'm going to have an issue with that, because I'm not entirely sure, because I'm just an internet pseudo lawyer. But I think that sounds like that smacks of witness tampering to me. See, we don't want the lawyer to fill in the gaps here. Okay. If he wants his lawyer present, that's fine. Let him have his lawyer present, but the lawyer may not feed him the answers. That's a big no-no. Imagine the other way, if things were reversed. If they wanted to question you, and you're the witness, you're the one making the claims, and you'll only speak through your attorney, they're not going to, no. Not in a situation like this.
Right.
This is a civil matter. This isn't a criminal matter where a witness doesn't have to say anything. But a witness who's making claims does. So
right.
That's it in kind of a nutshell. Remember, the basic is you're asking them, you're assuming everything they say is a lie, and you're going to be asking questions to bring out the contradictions and the facts that that their claims are based on. So if they say something outlandish, repeat it back to them and ask them, is this really your position? And then ask your clarifying questions, to bring out the contradictions or the lack of evidence. Okay. And when do you, and when is this set for?
That's going to be next Thursday, the 18th at like 1:30, I believe.
Okay. You're welcome to call the show again next Wednesday. And if you have any other questions.
All right. Thank you, sir.
You appreciate it. Good luck. Chris in Maryland. Yeah, it's the tough part here is when they lied, is being in there, because it's stressful enough, but they're lying right to your face. And it's with such an ease, because it's showing also is a complete lack of any kind of concern for what they're doing to you. They just don't care. It's still to this day, it's so unsettling to be in a room with somebody who has no problem hurting you. I mean, he's not going to pull a gun or throw a book at you necessarily, but he's going to damage you. He's going to cause your life to be ruined if they take your house or whatnot, or some other thing, taxation, say where they take your bank account, they have no problem with this. And to sit in a room across from somebody who is willing and able to damage you, and it doesn't bother him. His blood pressure may never rise. It's just like that scene from Silence of the Lambs. His heart rate didn't get above 62 as he's eating somebody's face. It's a sick type of individual who can hurt somebody and have no cares at all, and even forget their name after they go home. No concern at all. Let's get to as many calls as possible. I have area code 403. You're live on the No State Project. What's your name? Where are you calling from? Yeah, area code 403. You're live on the No State Project. Okay. Maybe they're just listening to the big show. We got this, I know where you're calling from. We have area code 602. We got somebody from Phoenix. What's your name? Where are you calling from?
Yeah, this is Chris from Phoenix. How you doing, Mark?
I'm doing well. Oh, so it is actually Phoenix. Okay.
Yeah, it's Phoenix.
And I know what the weather's like. I'm sorry?
No, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I know how the weather is there. It's windy. Bright, sunny, and windy. There was a sandstorm earlier. I don't know if that's kind of subsided, but never like that.
Strangely windy right now, yes.
Yeah. So what's going on?
So I wanted to call last week. I was listening on some of your stuff to get some insight. I had to go to court yesterday in Scottsdale, and I was prepared to go in there with Mr. Pierpan, Herbert.
Oh no!
Yeah. So I prepped hardcore, to go in there and face him, because I faced him before and actually had one dismissed for improper service. And so, yeah, but I got it on improper service. So, that's one of the other ones that they changed their service rule. They passed a new ordinance or code or whatever, so where they could just do whatever for your service. But back then I was able to beat it. But I went in there yesterday, and Peter Pan wasn't there.
Nice.
And it was it was a lady named Denise something. But it kind of threw me off, because I knew who Peter Pan was, and I knew how he kind of handles things, and I actually was gathering information on him as well, like, just different little things. So that kind of threw me off. But I sat in there. I went in there. I had court at 10, and I went down there about 8:30, and just to sit in there and listen to the officers and this judge speak, and them kind of just run through everybody.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
But yeah, it was good. Yeah, I wanted to see what the officer was asking, what he was presenting, and then, kind of formulate my plan. But then when I got up there to go, to get to the end, it wasn't good. I ended up getting shot down. But as it started, she let the officer speak, present his evidence of, it was a speeding ticket, present the evidence of one of those speeding traps or whatever that they have.
Okay.
And they admitted that evidence, and I said, that's okay.
Okay, wait.
And then when it got to be,
wait, Chris, real quick, and I know I'm out of time here, but very low on time. Hey, did you talk to the police officer before the hearing and get the discovery?
So I talked to him before the hearing. So I submitted the motion to dismiss. I submitted the discovery.
Right.
Peter Pan denied both of those beforehand, mailed out to me saying denied, this is just a hearing. And then the second one denied, this is just a hearing. And then I talked to the officer beforehand. He showed me the evidence, and I said, this is all you have. I was like, you don't have any more evidence. You didn't respond to my motions at all. And he said, the judge is going to take care of that or whatever. And I was like, okay.
We've heard the cops say this before. I actually had a cop named, I think his name was Perfect or something like that. And he said the same thing. And Peter Pan, of course, let it go. As far as the discovery, did you ask him for any proof he has that he has of personal knowledge that the Constitution and laws apply because you're physically in Arizona?
She wouldn't let me ask any questions of the court. I asked that beforehand. She said, no, you can't ask me any questions. And I was like, okay. Then I put that on record. I was like, let the court show that I'm not allowed to ask the court any questions. She's like, you can ask the officer questions. That's it. And I was like, okay. So then that kind of threw me for a curveball. And then I started asking him. I had like verbatim, what did I say? I said, what facts did you rely on to prove that you have jurisdiction over me? I was like, did Officer Fisk alone determine that he had jurisdiction over me when he, gave me this ticket or whatever? And, and then I asked straight out, I was like, all right, is it your conclusion? Is it his legal conclusion against that the signed piece of paper submitted to the court as if he has jurisdiction? And she kept backing him up saying yes. And then I asked him, what proof do you have that you have jurisdiction? And they're like, oh, because you're in the city of Scottsdale. And then I went after that and I said, okay, what evidence do you have that I was actually physically located in the city of Scottsdale?
See that
they said,
that's not a good line of questioning. A better line of questioning is, and I've said this on the show like every time for the last 200 shows. Did you determine on your own that just because you saw me physically in Scottsdale that your laws applied and gave you jurisdiction and probable cause? Then once he says yes, you did say that.
Yes, I did say that. I
Okay.
mean, I'm sorry if it's a little scrambled, but I have verbatim what I said, and it's verbatim what you just said.
Okay.
Did Officer Fisk alone determine he had jurisdiction over me?
Okay, that's not the same question,
yes
though. That's not the same question.
That's not the same question? Okay.
The question is, we want it. The question that we're asking the police officers, you determined on your own that just because I was physically in Scottsdale, the laws applied, giving you jurisdiction over me and probable cause. And then he says yes. And then you ask him, what facts did you rely on to support that determination that just because I'm physically in Scottsdale, your Constitution applies? And that's when that's the big question. But you got to ask the setup question right to be able to get to show the relevance for that question, so that when they refuse to allow an answer to the question, you got a denial of effective cross-examination. And I got to add, and I'm hoping that you'll be able to call back and talk about this because I'm pretty much out of time. I'm going to try to get one more call. When a judge says to you point blank, you cannot ask any questions, you can say objection, and you can ask them why not. Is that a policy that you just created? Is that consistent with due process? Now, even if they don't want to answer, even if they don't want to answer, you can still make objections. So when they went to put this cop on the stand, objection, lack of evidence, lack of proof showing personal knowledge of the matters he's testifying to. At least, say, you can do that. But I wish you.
No, I had that. Yeah, I had that.
Oh,
yeah,
good.
I had that all. She pretty much wouldn't let me do anything. And I put her on. I basically just put it on the court record that I wasn't allowed to do such things, and then I called them out. I'm gonna get the recording of it to go over it and see what I actually did. Say and what I got them saying. Basically, just extinguishing like any type of rights I did have. But I did get them to say they didn't agree on what jurisdiction was or whatever. Like they came up with their little thing saying that like, yeah, you are, because you were in the city limits and you are the person in the ID, and the ID is matched to your registration of your car. And that's what determined that we know that you were actually here. And I was like, that's your facts of how you presume that I'm here, my presence in your city. And they said yes. And I was like, and I put that on the record, something.
We don't need to focus, but we don't need to focus on that. We want to say, so if they say something like that, so your position is, if I'm physically in Scottsdale, your laws apply. And then, and then we know that that's what they're saying and how they're charging us. And they're going to do, they're going to say whatever they need, can and get away with to avoid actually focusing on why that's true. What facts does the police officer have that would prove that that's true? That just because you're physically in Scottsdale, a written instrument from 1910 applies and creates obligations on you. And that's why we usually. She stated that something about the statutes and everything else, and that's why they apply to me. So she's answering the questions for the cop. So she's actually, so you've mentioned this already. So just to be clear, you're asking questions and of the witness, the cop, and the judge is answering. Yes. Yeah. Testifying. I will get that. Judge testifying. I'll get the audio, and then I'll try and get you. I'll go over it and try and call him back on one of the other shows, either next week or whatever. Whenever I get it in, it'll probably take like 2 weeks or so to fill you in on. Because she said like I knew what I was getting from her. I was getting really basically, going in, what it's going to be, but you want to get it on record and then show the world what these guys are doing to people. Because I sat there and watched everyone else go before me and try to, they thought they had some type of case, and basically they just shot them down one after one. And then I went over into the criminal court side just to see what was going on over there. And you got 6 rows of pews, and you got the whole courtroom is packed with people, and they're all just sitting there, and one by one, they just get lined up to the judge, and he's like, these are your rights. 0 to 6 months is the least or the most in this. And then people I'm like, this is insane. I was like, this is insane. Have you ever been in there before? Oh, I've been there many times, unfortunately. I've seen Peter Pan firsthand. He got pretty damn upset with me, no doubt. And I pushed it to his limit. I mean, I was sitting up there with Mike, and he was going to have me arrested. In fact, he got pretty upset, was going to have the both of us arrested. This is the same jerk who said Mike was not even there. So Peter Pan threw me out. So Peter Pan, the first time I went in for that one that I ended up eventually getting dismissed because I knew I had a case. I wasn't sure of what was really going on. I got thrown out. Of the court. He was like, "You're out of here." That's pretty. Because my case was so strong. Oh, yeah, and then I came back later on, and I got it dismissed. Well, he threw me out. Peter Pan's a prick. I have to let you go, but definitely stay in touch and get with me off air. I'll get you a notice of appeal and post-conviction relief. Actually, just a notice of appeal is what you need here, and maybe a motion to vacate the judgment. We can do that. So send me a reminder email, and I can get that to you. Okay, we'll do. I appreciate the call. I apologize for the callers who have been very patient. I cannot get to everybody. I can't do a live show on Saturday. So if I missed you today, I will do my best to get a recorded show either tomorrow or Thursday. So I do apologize for that. I want to just end the show here since Chris and Phoenix mentioned Peerpan. I have no problem with, I put myself out here publicly, and so there's going to be oh my gosh, I've been doing the show here and I haven't even seen the comments. I completely forgot about the comments here on YouTube. Hey, we got a decent number there for today's show also. A lot of criticism that I just am a con man, or I just don't like the system. That I have nothing but disdain for the legal profession because I'm a jealous non-lawyer. I can't. Look, Herbert Peerpan, and yeah, I should have the graphics in the video. You can see his smug face. Herbert Peerpan is so dishonest. He actually ruled against a good man named Mike and put in the record Mike wasn't there. He actually threw Mike out of the courtroom, and it was Mike could have gone to jail. We had to get the hell out of that courtroom. We had to get out of the courthouse. We practically ran down, and Dan was with us. We practically ran to the library in Scottsdale. It's right down the street, because Peerpan he's a typical judge. He has no adult coping skills. He lied. He said Mike wasn't there. This is not a matter. Look, when I talk about these judges and about how corrupt they are, I'm not going to be like a prosecutor. I'm not going to be like the IRS. I'm going to have the actual evidence. I am a firsthand witness. I was there. I was there. Mike has been on the show and testified I was there. Okay. There's proof that I was there. Imagine going to court and having a judge so corrupt that he actually rules that you're not there. And not only does this piece of garbage say he's not there and got away with it on appeal, even with solid evidence from the court itself, he was there. The appellate judge in the Superior Court in Phoenix upheld it. This system is run by criminals because they force people in the community to give them money. That makes you a criminal. And they're there to protect themselves. Yes, we get a lot of stuff thrown out, but you have these hardcore psychopathic type antisocial, criminals like Peerpan, Herbert Peerpan. Gosh, why doesn't this guy just finally have a heart attack and die? Retire already. Leave people alone. So if anyone wants to level the criticism at me that I'm too harsh on judges, well, first of all, Abba Fongul, I don't care. I have the evidence. Herbert Peerpan found Mike guilty, stating he wasn't there. So let's see the critics turn around and try to spin that. Oh, look what we got here. We got the titty tart. Yeah. Yeah, I know. I have to feed you. Anyway, I appreciate everyone tuning into the Big Show today. My name is Mark Stevens. It's been episode 106 of the Big Show. I appreciate all the support of the show. If you want to help support the show, it is markstevens.cells.com and markstevens.net. And again, I will be probably pulling this video down, so not too many comments. But if you have any questions or concerns, or if you're grab catch the next live show, most likely will be next Wednesday. And if you have dissent, you're more than welcome to call the Big Show at 218-632-9399 or Skype me at FrankRizzo3 and present your evidence and your logic showing where I was wrong. But hey, until then, salud.